Make a short video explaining how to get full credit on the math question that you were asked to answer last week on the case study assignment. So this is the case study that had to do with lead in drinking water. And there were 2 questions on this assignment that required you to do unit conversions. I'm going to focus on question 10 in the interest of having a short video. If you have questions about question 11, you could also message me about that, but I think it's a bit simpler. So this question asked us first to convert 15 parts per billion to grams per milliliter. And I'm going to start with 15 parts per billion, which is also what you should do if you're answering a unit conversion question. It's important to start with something that's actually given in the question. And many times they will give you equivalencies. Like in this case, they tell us that a part per billion is equal to the mass or grams of lead per billion grams of water. So we're going to use that equivalency, but we're not going to just rewrite the initial amount as grams of lead per billion grams of water. We're going to actually show how we would convert that to grams of lead per billion grams of water. So I'm going to write 1 gram of lead per 1 billion grams of water over 1 part per billion. And that's going to give us our 15 grams of lead per 1 billion grams of water. But we're asked to convert to grams per milliliter, not grams per grams. So we need to convert the grams of water to milliliters using the density of water, which was also given in this case. So next I'm going to multiply by 1 gram per 1 milliliter of water, and that will give us 15. I'm going to go to the next line here. 15 grams of lead per 1 billion milliliters of water, which is equal to 15 times 10 to the negative 9 grams of lead per milliliter of water. So we could leave our answer like this, or we could rewrite it as 1.5 times 10 to the 8 grams of lead per milliliter of water. But in order to get full credit, you have to show each unit conversion. You can't just show the equivalency and then rewrite the units in the new units. You have to show how you canceled the units in order to get that answer. So that's what we were doing here. And they very often will give you many of the equivalencies. The only ones that you're generally expected to memorize are the metric conversions and sort of the common metric conversions. One of those could be, for example, micrograms to grams, and we're going to use that in the next part. So after converting 15 parts per billion to grams per milliliter, we are then asked to compare that to 5 micrograms per liter, which is the lead concentration that's generally found in U.S. drinking water. So in order to do that, I could either convert the answer I just got to micrograms per liter, or I can convert micrograms per liter to the units that I used in the last part, which is what I'm going to choose to do. So I'm going to start with 5 micrograms per liter. I'm just going to copy that unit so that I don't have to look up the symbol. And I'm going to first use the conversion of 1 million micrograms. Let's make it a little bigger. That needs to go on the bottom actually. So 1 gram is equivalent to 1 times 10 to the 6 micrograms. Now I know that when you're typing on the computer, it's a little hard to see what's on the top and what's on the bottom, and it can definitely be easier to set these problems up if you have an equation editor or if you're using paper. But the information that I've received and that I'll share with you is that you will not have those tools, like equation editing tools on the computer on the day of your AP exam. So you will have scrap paper, and definitely a good strategy would be to do these unit conversions first on scrap paper. Make sure that you have everything set up correctly and that you've included all the appropriate work, and then type it into the computer similar to the way I'm typing it into the computer here. But you should know that the word processing tool is going to be very similar to this one that I'm using in Google Docs, and it's not going to have the ability to put the unit conversions where you have like a very clear numerator and denominator. So you will have to write them out like horizontally like I'm doing here. So 5 micrograms per liter times 1 gram per million micrograms is going to give us the number of grams per liter. But in order to compare it, we want the number of grams of lead per milliliters of water. So we need to convert liters to milliliters as well. So we want to have milliliters on the bottom. So we want to have liters on the top here. 1 liter per 1,000 milliliters. And now if we were to multiply across, we would get 5 grams of lead per, on the bottom there, we now have 1 times 10 to the 9 milliliters of water, which equals 5 times 10 to the negative 9 grams of lead per milliliter of water. And we can see that if we're comparing the numbers, that this number is much larger, but it is better to be more specific and to actually find out how many times larger it is. So we are going to also show that work by dividing this number by the second number. And if we do that, we can see that we're going to get 3. And if we wanted to write that out in words, which we should say, so 15 parts per billion is 3 times greater than the lead concentration generally found in drinking water of 5 micrograms per liter. And this is what you needed to show in order to get full credit for this question or something equivalent. So an equivalent answer, instead of 15 times 10 to the negative 9, you could have put 1.5 times 10 to the negative 8. To be honest, you could even put 0.00000000015, and that would also be counted as correct on the AP exam, for example, and on this assignment. You could have used a different method of calculating as long as you came to the same result of the 15 parts per billion being 3 times greater than the 5 micrograms per liter, and as long as you didn't skip any steps. So it's important to show each step even if it feels obvious to you. I hope that's helpful, and you can message me either through your private topic or through the Ask a Question board if you have additional questions.